It is officially summertime. The months of June, July, August, and into September are some of the hottest fishing months of the year. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. And today I want to talk about the top 3 summertime baits. These lures will work for you no matter where you live and no matter the body of water you're fishing. So stay tuned, it's gonna be a good one. This video is brought to you by sportsmansoutfitters.com. You guys know that I love to shop at Sportsman's Outfitters because I save a lot of money by shopping at Sportsman's Outfitters. And right now you can save even more money by shopping some of their 4th of July deals. And one of my favorite is you can buy the exact rod and reel combos that I use for a huge discount right now. That includes the Bruin ELS reel and an Arc Tharp series or Invoker Pro rod. So if you guys want to save some money or pick up a new combo, click those links down below in the description and you're greatly going to help support the Bass Fishing HQ channel. The hard part about coming up with a list of 3 lures to use during the summer is that there are so many different types of fisheries that everybody fish. You might live in California, you might live in Texas, you might live in New York, and they're so vastly different when it comes to the type of fisheries that we fish. You might fish natural lakes, you might fish midland reservoirs or highland reservoirs, you might fish rivers, you might fish ponds. And so when I came up with this list of 3, I really wanted to take that into consideration. What are 3 lures that no matter where you live in the country, you can catch fish on during summer? And no matter what type of body of water you're fishing for, but also no matter what type of bass you are fishing for. Because you might be fishing for smallmouth, you might be fishing for largemouth or spotted bass. So these 3 lures, the ones that I have selected, you can take no matter where you live in the country, no matter what type of body of water you're fishing, no matter what type of fish you are fishing for, and you can catch fish during the summer. So let's dive into those right now. Now, the first lure is one that is honestly one of my favorite baits to fish of all time. I've caught a ton of big bass on this bait. I've also just caught a ton of fish in general on this bait, and that is a walking topwater bait. One of my favorite walking topwater baits is this one right here. It's a Strike King Sexy Dog. You know, the Strike King Sexy Dog is just a very consistent bait for me, and it works right out of the package. Now, I tend to kind of spruce my bait up with a few things. I will put different treble hooks on this bait. I really like Berkley Fusion 19 hooks, and I typically fish a walking topwater with a feathered treble. Not always, but a lot of times I am going to use a feathered treble on the back. Now, the Sexy Dog is not the only walking topwater that I throw. I like it a lot. I also throw a Spook Junior a lot. I also throw an Evergreen JT 115 a lot. Now, one of the biggest reasons that it's important to have this bait tied up during the summer is that during the summer, bass are feeding on bait fish like threadfin shad, gizzard shad, alewives. Depending on where you live in the country, they are feeding on bait fish. And something that you see a lot during the summer is schooling activity. You will actually see fish that are pushing bait fish towards the surface, and you will see them blowing up on that bait. And that's a really exciting bite, and one of the best ways to catch that fish is with a walking topwater bait. But no matter if you are fishing around fish that are actually schooling or not, this is just a great bait that bass will hit all summer long. Now, you can obviously fish this a lot in a lot of low light conditions, you know, early in the morning, late in the evening, when you have cloudy days. Those are kind of known for being good topwater days. But the thing about a walking topwater is I have seen that bass will hit that topwater all day long, especially if you have clear water and a little bit of chop on the water. Bass will hit that topwater all day long. There may not be a cloud in the sky and you are still going to be able to catch fish on a walking topwater. Now, the big thing you want to make sure to do with that topwater is keep your color selection simple. A lot of times I'm going to fish a white or bone colored walking bait. That's probably my first choice in a lot of situations. And I personally don't think there's a big difference to the bass between white and bone, because studies have shown that bass can't tell a big difference between white and chartreuse. So if they can't tell the difference between white and chartreuse, I don't think they're going to be able to tell a big difference between white and bone. Now, the other color that I pick up a lot, especially in clear water, is some sort of translucent colored bait. This is a bait that you can see through. One of the biggest things with topwaters is you don't always want the bass to get a good look at that bait. If you have bass coming up to that thing and swiping at it and missing it, that is a lot of times when you want to switch over to a translucent color, a color that they really can't see too well. They just hear the commotion, then they aim at that commotion and get that bait a lot better. Now, the other color that I will throw from time to time is black. There's just something about a black topwater that some bass absolutely cannot stand. And I've seen this a lot with smallmouth. I've also seen this in clear water, but definitely in really dark situations. If you get out to the body of water and you have a rainstorm coming through and it's very dark, that is a lot of times when I'm gonna pick up that black and just go to work. I fish my topwater walking baits with a 7.3-to-1 gear ratio reel, a 7-foot 2-inch medium power rod that is a parabolic bending rod, a more moderate action rod with 30-pound braid and a 20-pound monofilament leader. Moving on to lure number 2, and this is a lure that a lot of guys probably aren't always going to be thinking about as a summertime bait. A lot of guys think about this for winter and spring fishing, but this particular bait works all year long, and that is a chatterbait. I recently did a podcast with Alex Rudd where we tiered the top summer lures, and we were talking specifically about a chatterbait. And at first that chatterbait started in the A tier and it moved up to the tier above A, which is pretty much superb. It's one of the best lures that you can use in the summer. And the reason being is that if you guys follow a lot of tournament bass fishing like I do, there's almost always a guy who top 10s using a chatterbait. No matter the fishery that they go to, whether there's grass in it, whether it's straight rock, whether it's wood, whether it's muddy, clean, there's always guys that are top 10ing with a chatterbait. And the best thing about chatterbaits these days is they come in a lot of different sizes and weights. So you can fish a chatterbait deep, you can fish it in 10, 15 foot of water, and you can obviously fish it really shallow in just a foot or two of water. And so that is why this bait is just so versatile and why it is so good even in the summer months. And like I said, this lure will work for you no matter where you fish. If you fish in ponds, I'm telling you what, you have to have a chatterbait like this one, a chatterbait mini max. You have got to have this with you at all times because it is going to catch a lot of fish in ponds. If you fish in lowland reservoirs that typically have a lot of grass in them or natural lakes that have a lot of grass in them, I mean, you literally cannot beat a chatterbait around grass. It comes through that grass better than almost every single lure. And the thing about it is that a lot of guys don't think that smallmouth will eat a chatterbait, and they will absolutely dominate a chatterbait. I personally fish for a lot of smallmouth, and I'm telling you what, a lot of guys don't think about throwing a chatterbait for smallmouth, and they will tear this thing up. Absolutely tear it up. And the one type of lake that a lot of guys may not think to throw a chatterbait in is a highland reservoir. A highland reservoir is typically pretty deep and clear, but a lot of times during the summer we will have rainstorms that come through, and those rains will bring dirty and stained water to kind of the backs of creeks and the backs of pockets on a highland reservoir. And if I have those type of conditions, that is when I'm going to pick up a chatterbait in that stained water on a highland reservoir and go to work and catch a lot of bass. Again, with these lures, I am trying to pick lures that work no matter where you fish, and a chatterbait works no matter where you fish. Now, because I fish a chatterbait so much, I have a very specific designated rod for a chatterbait. This is a 7.3-to-1 gear ratio reel. I'm typically going to fish this on 15 to 20 pound tests. I fish 15-pound tests when I'm fishing that bait deeper, 20-pound tests usually when I am 6 or 8 feet and less. And then the rod is really critical. This rod was actually designed specifically for chatterbaits. It's called the Arc Tharp Series B Hitte rod. It's actually a composite rod, so it's half fiberglass, half graphite, and this rod just is perfect for casting a chatterbait. It's very light, which is why I like this rod more than any other chatterbait rod that I've used. Now, the third lure is one that you absolutely must have with you when you are fishing during the summer, and that is a drop shot. Nowadays, there are so many different finesse techniques out there. I mean, we have Ned rigs, Nico rigs, wacky rigs, and I feel like a lot of people honestly don't fish a drop shot as much as they used to. This is kind of one of the more original finesse techniques, and the thing about a drop shot is it just straight catches fish. It catches them when they are biting really well. It also catches them when they're not biting them really well, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons why you want to have a drop shot with you during the summer. You are going to run into a lot of situations in the summer where those fish have been beaten up by other people. A lot of guys are out fishing, a lot of guys are catching fish, and those fish have seen a lot of those traditional lures. And something that it seems like they just do not get used to, something that you can always catch them on, is a drop shot. And the other great thing about a drop shot is you can fish it really shallow and you can fish it really deep. You can fish it in off-color water and you can fish it in, gin clear, crystal clear water. Now, the big thing that you want to do is really just set your drop shot on for the specific situation that you are fishing. You know, if you can get away with an exposed drop shot hook that is nose hooked, I would suggest doing that. But a lot of times you might be fishing around stumps or wood cover where that exposed nose hook is not going to come through that cover great. So then you can actually kind of rig this bait Texas style. There's a lot of different ways to set up a drop shot, and I actually go into fishing a drop shot a little bit more in this video right here, where I talk about the big mistakes that a lot of anglers make with the drop shot. So if you guys want to know more about the drop shot, click this link next. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.